The auction yard fell silent the moment the skinny boy handed over his last $25 for 80 starving hogs that looked closer to death than life. Farmers shook their heads in disbelief. Some laughed openly, others whispered that the boy had finally lost his mind. The animals were nothing but ribs, scars, and hopeless eyes, abandoned because no one believed they were worth another mouthful of feed. Yet no one could have imagined that those forgotten hogs would uncover something buried beneath a dying valley, something that would restore the land, rescue hundreds of struggling families, and turn one boy everyone mocked into the greatest symbol of hope the valley had ever known. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change lives, forgiveness is stronger than revenge, hope should never be abandoned, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share this story with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing powerful journeys like this one. The boy's name was Garrett Rowan, a quiet 16-year-old who lived with his grandmother, Mabel Rowan, on a tiny farm that barely deserved to be called one anymore. Their fences leaned sideways, their barn roof leaked whenever it rained, and their fields had become hard, gray earth that produced almost nothing. Years earlier Garrett's parents had died in a highway accident while delivering vegetables to the county market, leaving him to grow up faster than any child ever should. Mabel raised him with tenderness instead of bitterness. She often reminded him that broken things sometimes carried the greatest purpose because they understood suffering better than anything polished and perfect. The valley surrounding their home had once been famous for rich black soil that produced enormous harvests. Over decades of aggressive farming, chemical overuse, and severe erosion, the earth became exhausted. Crops shrank year after year. Families sold farms that had belonged to them for generations. Every daytime drive through the valley revealed abandoned barns, rusted tractors, and fields where nothing but stubborn weeds survived. People no longer spoke about the future with excitement. They spoke only about debts, foreclosures, and moving away. Garrett hated seeing hope disappear from people's faces. Although he owned almost nothing, he constantly searched for opportunities others ignored. While helping clean the county livestock auction one afternoon, he overheard workers discussing 80 neglected hogs that nobody wanted. The animals had been confiscated after their owner abandoned them. Feeding them cost more than officials believed they were worth. The county planned to sell the entire group for practically nothing simply to avoid paying for their care another week. Everyone expected the animals to be purchased for slaughter if they sold at all. Garrett watched them carefully. They were starving, frightened, and weak, yet something caught his attention. Even in terrible condition, they constantly rooted through every handful of dirt beneath their feet with surprising determination. Their instinct never stopped. They searched every patch of ground as though convinced something valuable waited below. Garrett remembered something he had once read in an old agricultural library book. Before modern machinery, farmers sometimes used pigs to naturally disturb compacted ground, exposing buried organic matter and improving soil structure. The idea sounded impossible on the valley's lifeless land, but impossible was all Garrett had left. He counted every dollar he possessed. $25. Everything. He placed the winning bid. The laughter echoed across the auction yard. Some called him foolish. Others pitied him. Several believed grief from losing his parents had clouded his judgment forever. Garrett ignored every voice except his grandmother's quiet encouragement waiting inside his memory. By the following morning, neighbors gathered simply to watch him fail. The 80 exhausted hogs slowly wandered across the hardest field on his property. Garrett didn't force them. He simply gave them fresh water, every bit of food he could afford, patience, and room to recover. Day after day, under bright daylight skies, they grew slightly stronger. As their strength returned, so did their relentless instinct to root through the stubborn ground. Within days, something strange began happening. Large patches of compacted earth broke apart naturally. Hidden roots surfaced. Old layers of decayed plants long trapped beneath hardened soil emerged into sunlight. The pigs uncovered forgotten organic material buried years earlier beneath compressed earth that tractors had never reached. Garrett noticed the exposed soil looked darker than anything remaining in the valley. Curious, he carried samples to an elderly retired soil scientist named Preston Hale, who volunteered at the local agricultural extension office. Preston had spent 40 years studying soil before retirement, and although many people ignored him now, Garrett listened carefully whenever the old man shared knowledge. Preston examined the samples with growing disbelief. The rooting had exposed ancient layers of carbon-rich organic matter preserved beneath decades of compacted soil. Even more surprising, the pigs had naturally mixed those materials into the upper layers where microorganisms could thrive again. Combined with careful composting and cover crops, the damaged land might actually recover far faster than experts believed possible. Garrett could hardly breathe. He hadn't bought miracle animals. He had simply trusted instincts everyone else overlooked. Working from sunrise until late afternoon every day, Garrett carefully rotated the hogs across different sections of exhausted land instead of allowing overgrazing. He planted clover and native grasses immediately after each area had been rooted. Preston guided him through simple regenerative farming methods that required more patience than money. Slowly, life returned. Earthworms appeared. Wildflowers emerged. Butterflies floated above fields where nothing had grown for years. Birdsong filled the mornings once again. Neighbors noticed. At first they laughed less. Then they watched quietly. Finally they began asking questions. Garrett welcomed every visitor. He refused to hide what he had learned. Instead of charging for advice, he invited struggling farmers to observe every experiment firsthand. He believed knowledge became stronger when shared instead of protected. Not everyone appreciated his success. A wealthy land investor named Victor Langford had quietly purchased thousands of acres across the valley at extremely low prices. His business plan depended upon farms continuing to fail so desperate families would keep selling their land. Garrett's growing reputation threatened years of calculated investments. Victor began spreading rumors that Garrett's methods would destroy remaining farmland. He claimed the pigs carried disease. He insisted the recovered fields were temporary illusions. Fear spread almost as quickly as hope. County officials scheduled inspections. Reporters visited. Experts collected soil samples. Garrett never argued publicly. He simply continued working. Weeks later the laboratory reports arrived. The results shocked everyone. Organic matter had increased dramatically. Water retention improved. Beneficial microorganisms multiplied rapidly. Crop test plots produced harvests far beyond neighboring untreated fields. The science supported every visible improvement. Victor's accusations collapsed overnight. Yet Garrett never celebrated his rival's embarrassment. Instead, he visited Victor personally during broad daylight while workers repaired one of Victor's neglected fences. Garrett thanked him for forcing independent testing because now every farmer trusted the results even more. Victor expected anger. He received kindness instead. For the first time in many years, shame reached a heart that greed had almost completely hardened. As more farmers adopted regenerative methods inspired by Garrett's success, the valley slowly transformed. Brown fields turned green. Small family farms reopened. Young adults who had planned to leave decided to remain. Local businesses reopened because agriculture finally supported the community again. The 80 starving hogs became local legends. Schoolchildren visited to learn about caring for animals, restoring soil, and respecting nature rather than fighting against it. Garrett always reminded visitors that the pigs were never magical. They simply followed the instincts they were created with. The real miracle happened because someone chose compassion instead of convenience. Months later, an unexpected drought struck neighboring counties. Crops withered beneath relentless sunshine. Yet the restored valley held moisture far better than surrounding farmland. Fields continued producing healthy harvests because healthier soil captured precious water instead of letting it disappear. Food shortages that affected nearby communities barely touched Garrett's valley. News spread across the state. Agricultural universities visited. Environmental organizations documented the transformation. Farmers from distant counties arrived daily to witness what everyone now called the Rowan Restoration. Garrett politely declined every offer to patent methods or sell expensive consulting packages. Instead, he published everything freely through farming organizations so anyone could restore damaged land regardless of wealth. His grandmother smiled every afternoon while watching visitors walk across fields once considered worthless. Tears often filled her eyes because she remembered standing beside Garrett when neighbors laughed at his impossible dream. Now those same neighbors thanked him for saving family farms that had stood for generations. One crisp afternoon, Victor approached Garrett again, this time carrying a faded folder filled with property deeds. His voice shook with regret. Rather than buying struggling farms cheaply anymore, he wanted to help former owners purchase them back at the same prices they had been forced to sell. Garrett offered forgiveness without hesitation because he believed restored hearts mattered just as much as restored soil. That decision inspired the valley almost as deeply as the recovered land itself. People realized genuine success was measured not by how many opponents someone defeated but by how many lives they helped rebuild. Years later, visitors driving through the valley saw flourishing orchards, healthy grazing fields, colorful wildflower borders, and children laughing beside thriving family farms. Few realized the entire transformation began with 80 starving hogs everyone else considered worthless and one determined boy who believed every living thing deserved another chance. Garrett often walked quietly through the fields during bright afternoons, watching the pigs root happily beneath wide blue skies. He never forgot the day laughter followed his $25 gamble. Without those painful moments, he might never have discovered the courage to trust compassion over public opinion. Before this story ends, we would love to hear from you. Please leave a meaningful comment telling us what touched your heart the most. Have you ever seen someone everyone underestimated accomplish something extraordinary, or do you believe that giving people and even forgotten things a second chance can change the world? Your thoughts may encourage someone reading them today. As the valley flourished season after season, Garrett understood that the greatest treasure hidden beneath the soil had never been organic matter alone. It was faith buried beneath disappointment, hope buried beneath failure, and love buried beneath years of hardship. Those treasures had always been there, waiting for someone willing to dig beneath appearances. The starving hogs had revealed far more than healthy earth. They had uncovered the truth that compassion can revive what the world has already given up on, forgiveness can heal wounds pride never could, and one courageous act of kindness can restore an entire community for generations to come. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember, our community grows stronger every time we choose mercy over judgment, hope over despair, and the courage to believe that even what seems broken beyond repair can become the beginning of something beautiful.